الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا وزدنا علما وعملا بفضلك يا أرحم الراحمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Jazakumullah khairan for taking your time out to join the fifth lesson of our Tafsir course. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this lesson beneficial for everyone and allow me to deliver it to the best of my ability. Ameen Ya Rabbal Alameen. Inshallah, like always, we'll start the lesson with questions from our previous lesson. So the first question is, what are Surah Fatiha's alternative names? Okay, so we did go over three other names of Surah Fatiha. If I could get participants to inshallah answer on the chat option, what are Surah Fatiha's alternative names? If you remember any other name of Surah Fatiha, we went over three other names. One is Surah Shifa, as is the cure, the healer, mashallah. One is, we went over Sab' al-Mathani, the 7 repeated verses, as we repeat these verses many times. MashaAllah. Number 2, what are the virtues of Surah Fatiha? MashaAllah, mother of the book, Kitab, very good, yes. What are the virtues of Surah Fatiha and how is it different from other surahs? Surah Fatiha is the only time we have a conversation with Allah. Allah replies back. MashaAllah, someone wrote, cure for all diseases, very good. Greatest surah, mashallah, the greatest surah in the Quran, as it was revealed in a verse. It says Allah has given the Quran and Surah Fatiha. It's like two separate things. MashaAllah, Allah responds back. Why was Surah Nas and Surah Falaq revealed? MashaAllah, none other like it in any other books. Very good. And why was Surah Nas and Surah Falaq, why were they revealed? MashaAllah, the protection. So the Jewish man did do black magic on the Prophet ﷺ, which caused him to forget many things. Hence, Surah Nas and Surah Falaq were revealed. The difference between both surahs are we ask for protection for two different things in both surahs, and both surahs together are known as Mu'awwadatain. MashaAllah. Now we're moving on to our next surah, Surah Ikhlaas. Ikhlas in Arabic means sincerity. Now, what is the cause of revelation of this surah? Surah Ikhlas was revealed. The reason why Allah revealed the surah was because the mushrikeen, the polytheists of Mecca, they asked the Prophet ﷺ that what are the attributes of your Lord? What are the attributes and what is the lineage of Allah? So according to some narrations, they said, is Allah made of gold? Is Allah made of silver? What is Allah made of? So this surah was revealed as a reply to those who questioned regarding Allah's lineage. Now, what are the virtues of this surah? This surah is equal to a third of the Quran. As you can see underneath the heading, virtues of this surah is equal to 1/3 of the Quran. So do take notes, inshallah. How is this surah equal to 1/3 of the Quran? If you recite this surah 3 times, you get the reward of reciting the entire Quran. Now, the reason is because the subject matters of the Quran can be put into 3 categories. So the subject matter of the Quran, main themes of the Quran, the 3 main matters of the Quran are of 3. One is Tawheed. Tawheed means the oneness of Allah, okay, which includes all his qualities. We believe in Allah alone. Number 2 is the injunctions and commandments of Allah, how we have to pray Salah, we fast in the month of Ramadan, Hajj, Zakat, etc. And number 3 is the Day of Judgment and the hereafter. From all 3 subject matters, Surah Ikhlas talks about number 1, Tawheed, the oneness of Allah. So it's like a third of the Quran. You get the reward of reciting the full Quran if you recite Surah Ikhlas 3 times. It's also mentioned in the hadith, the Prophet said, إِنَّهَا لَتَعْدِلُ ثُلُثَ الْقُرْآنِ. Okay, this surah is equivalent to a third of the Quran. And another virtue of this surah is you get great reward for loving the surah. Listen to the story that Sayyidina Aisha radiallahu anha, she reports that once the Prophet sent a expedition, he sent a military expedition, and he appointed a certain Sahabi who was very well versed in the Quran. He could recite the Quran very fluently. So this Sahabi was appointed as the head of the army by our beloved Prophet ﷺ. Now this Sahabi, what he would do is when he would lead the rest of the Sahaba in Salah, after reciting Surah Fatiha and another Surah, he would recite Surah Ikhlaas. And he did this throughout the expedition. So he would recite Surah Fatiha, he would recite another Surah in his rak'ah, and then he would recite Surah Ikhlaas. So every rak'ah he recited, he would recite Surah Ikhlaas at the end. So the other Sahaba asked him, "Why are you doing this? Like, why are you doing this in this manner?" And he replied, "This is my preferred method, and I like doing this." So when the Sahaba arrived back in Medina, they approached the Prophet ﷺ and they told him about the incident and how this Sahabi led them in Salah and recited Surah Ikhlas in every rak'ah. The Prophet ﷺ asked them to inquire from him that what was the reason. Okay, and when they asked him, he said that indeed Surah Ikhlas has the attributes of Ar-Rahman, as in Allah, and I love to recite them. When the Prophet ﷺ was informed of his response, he said, حُبُّكَ إِيَّاهَا أدخلك الجنة, that your love for this will surely enter you to paradise. That your love for this surah will surely enter you into Jannah. So Surah Ikhlas, if you love Surah Ikhlas, because of loving Surah Ikhlas, you will be entered into Jannah. Now there are other virtues of this surah. There's another virtue of this surah that reciting Surah Ikhlas many times, inshallah, you will enter through Jannah from the right. Anas radiallahu anhu narrates that if a person recites Surah Ikhlas 100 times whilst lying on their right hand side in the state of wudu before going to sleep, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say to that person on the day of judgment, "O my servant, proceed towards paradise from the right hand side." I'll repeat that again. Anas radiallahu anhu, he narrates that if a person recites Surah Ikhlas 100 times whilst lying on the right hand side in the state of wudu before going to sleep, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say to that person on the day of judgment, "O my servant, proceed towards paradise from the right hand side." Anas radiallahu anhu also reports another hadith that if a person was to recite Surah Ikhlas 200 times, then 50 years of their sins of the previous years, 50 years of sins would be forgiven unless they owe a debt. Imagine reciting Surah Ikhlas 100 times while it's lying on your right hand side, whilst you are in wudu before you go to sleep. Allah will say to you on the day of judgment, "O my servant, proceed towards paradise from the right hand side." And if you recite it 200 times, what is the reward? That 50 years, okay, 50 years of sin would be forgiven unless you owe a debt to someone. Now, Sa'id ibn Musayyib says that the Prophet said, for every 10 times someone recites Surah Ikhlas, a palace is built for them in paradise. For every 10 times we recite Surah Ikhlas, a palace is built for us in paradise. So upon hearing this, Umar radiallahu anhu, he was overjoyed and he said, "We will have many palaces as we recite Surah Ikhlas so much." And the Prophet replied, "Allah's treasure is unlimited. The more you recite, the more you receive." So make the surah a part of our daily life. Try to recite it a minimum of 3 times every single day. Okay, whether in salah or outside of salah before you go to sleep, when you wake up, inshallah, you'll get the reward of reciting the full Quran. Okay, now moving on to inshallah our summary of Surah Ikhlas. Now before we speak about Surah Ikhlas, there's a few other hadith I would like to mention. That did you know that the Prophet he would recite Surah Kafirun and Surah Ikhlas in his Sunnah Rak'ah of Fajr, and Maghrib. So inshallah, we should also make this habit. That Aisha radiallahu narrates that the Prophet said, the best two surahs to be recited in the Sunnah of Fajr are Surah Kafirun and Surah Ikhlas. In the first rak'ah, you can recite Qul Ya Ayyuhal Kafirun. In the second rak'ah of Fajr Sunnah, you can recite Surah Ikhlas. And many Sahaba, they narrated that they observed the Prophet ﷺ reciting Surah Kafirun and Surah Ikhlas frequently in the Sunnah Salah of Fajr and Maghrib. Everyone, inshallah, can act upon this from today, Maghrib time, inshallah, the two Sunnah of Maghrib. Tomorrow, Fajr onwards, inshallah, the two Sunnah of Fajr. Recite Surah Kafirun in the first rak'ah and Surah Ikhlas in the second rak'ah. Aisha radiallahu anha states that she would observe the Prophet every night. Before he would go to bed, he said that he would put his best palms together, and after reciting Surah Ikhlas and then Mu'awwadatain, Surah Falaq and Surah Nas, he would blow on them and wipe them over his head, his face, the front area of his body. Thereafter, as much of his body as he could, he would repeat this at least 3 times. This is mentioned in Sahih al-Bukhari. So we should also try to do this before we go to sleep. Recite Surah Ikhlas and Surah Falaq, Surah Nas, blow on our palms and wipe it over our full body 3 times, just like the Prophet ﷺ. Now moving on to the summary of the surah, as we learned, the surah was revealed as the polytheists, the mushrikeen of Mecca. They asked the Prophet ﷺ that how does your God, how does Allah look? What are the attributes of Allah? What was he made from? Was he made from gold? Was he made from silver or something else? Hence, in the first verse, Allah says, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. Allah is commanding the Prophet ﷺ. Allah is commanding the Prophet ﷺ to say, He, Allah, is one. Go and say to them, go and say to the mushrikeen, the polytheists, that Allah is one. And the name Allah is what is referred to as Ismu Dhat. Allah is the actual name referring to His existence. Yes, Allah has other names, many, many names. We only know 99, right? Names like Ahad, Qul huwa Allahu Ahad. Ahad are referred to Allah's attributes and His qualities. So the word Ahad in a detailed definition, here Ahad, if you look at the translation on the screen here, he says one. But as a detailed definition, it means, Ahad means that there was no one before Allah, nor can there be anyone after Him, no one can resemble Him, nor is there plural of Allah. Allah is one. Okay, no one has come before Him, no one will come after Him, no one can resemble Him. Okay, and He is one, there is no plural form. So this surah contains a message that has been delivered to us from the time of Adam alayhi salam till now by all the prophets. The message is the message of Tawheed, the oneness of Allah. Okay, the oneness of Allah, which we believe in one Allah, which is called monotheism, believing in Allah alone and not ascribing any partners with Allah. Allah has told us how different prophets, they conveyed this message. We'll go over how different prophets of the past, how they told their people about the oneness of Allah, how they told their people about Tawheed. Prophet Adam taught his children regarding Tawheed. Iblis thought to himself that I will not be able to misguide these people anymore. So Iblis was thinking to himself that Adam has taught his children about Tawheed, how can I misguide them now? So he thought of an idea. Let me put thoughts into the mind of the people that Allah does not exist. So he made a plan up. And this plan is mentioned in Sahih al-Bukhari. That Shaitan's tactics are mentioned. That Shaitan comes to one of you and says, who created this? And who created this? Till he asks you, who created your Lord? He starts putting doubts into you that who created Allah? When he goes that far, then let that person seek refuge in Allah and terminate that thought. If a thought comes to you that how does Allah look? Who created Allah? All these doubts that come to you, there is no benefit in knowing that. Okay, the deeper you go into this, the more lost you will become. You will drown into your doubts. Okay, he then puts thoughts, how is Allah? Okay, we are human beings, therefore he must be a gigantic human being, or a king needs assistance, or Allah must need assistance, and stuff like that. He was putting thoughts and doubts into the minds of the Muslims. By the time of Prophet Nuh alayhi salam, so from Adam alayhi salam's time to Prophet Nuh alayhi salam's time, people had already started worshipping idols. We know that Nuh alayhi salam, he propagated for a very long time. Does anyone know how long did the Prophet Nuh alayhi salam, how long did he preach the religion of Allah for? How many years? If I could get some answers. How many years? Very close, brother Abdullah. Nuh alayhi salam, he propagated and he preached for a very long time. He was patient for a very long time. MashaAllah, 950 years. MashaAllah, MashaAllah to those two all answered. Nuh alayhi salam, he preached for 950 years. Now, in these 950 years, only a handful of people accepted Islam. Some scholars say only 80 people accepted Islam. 80 people, they believed in Allah. 80 people in 950 years. That's one person every 12 years. Imagine how patient he was. His own son never accepted. His own wife never accepted. And this wasn't that he would just go out, part-time job, he's giving preaching. No, it's mentioned in Surah Nuh, قال رب إني دعوت قومي ليلا ونهارا. He preached day and night. Day and night he would be preaching. He wasn't doing it for an hour or two. Full day, full night he was preaching. Now, how did this idol worshipping start? So sometimes when a person passed away in a certain village, in a certain place, and Shaitan put into the minds of people that, you know what, this person who's passed away, he's done so much great work for you. Why don't you draw a picture of him, put it into your place of worship, and every time you make dua to Allah, you worship Allah, you can just remember that person, and you can make dua for that person as well. And slowly, obviously, it used to rain and stuff like that. The pictures would wipe off. So they said, you know what? Shaitan gave them the idea that, you know what, the pictures won't work. So make a statue of these people. Slowly, Shaitan made them and put them into the sin, which is shirk. Shirk is ascribing partners with Allah. This is the only sin that Allah doesn't forgive. Allah forgives everything besides shirk. When you ascribe partners with Allah, Allah doesn't forgive this. And then we move on to Prophet Ibrahim alayhi's time. Okay, he went through the same thing. His father Azar was an idol seller. Yes, his father idol used to sell. His father Azar would sell idols, and Ibrahim alayhi's descendants, they put up to 360 idols in and around the Kaaba. So this message of Tawheed has come from Prophet Adam's time until now. So that's what the first verse speaks about Tawheed. Second verse is Allahu Samad. Allah is independent. Samad is one of the names of Allah. And the Prophet said, whoever memorizes all, Allah has 99 names, whoever memorizes them will enter Jannah. So try your best, inshallah, to memorize the 99 names of Allah. So Allah is not dependent on anyone. Rather, everything and everyone is dependent on Allah. Yes, Allah doesn't need us. We need Allah. Not only us, all the world, the jinns, the animals, the insects, everything Allah has created needs Allah. We're all dependent on Allah, and Allah doesn't need anyone. Allah hasn't got any needs. He doesn't need to sleep. He doesn't need to eat. He doesn't feel hungry. He doesn't feel tired. Okay? Allah hasn't got the needs and He doesn't have the necessities that we need. Moving on to the third verse, Lam yalid wa lam yulad. He has no children and is not the child of anyone. So Allah, Lam yalid, He doesn't give birth. Wa lam yulad, nor was He given birth. This verse mentions Allah has no children. Allah has no parents. Allah has no ascendants, no parents, no any descendants, no any children. Because some disbelievers say that Allah has daughters. They say that the angels are Allah's daughters. The angels are not Allah's daughters. Okay, some disbelievers say that Allah's daughters are the angels. Some say that Isa Jesus is Allah's son. Okay, this is all wrong. So you know why they say Allah's daughters are angels? Because these disbelievers used to look down upon having daughters in the days of ignorance. In Ayyam al-Jahiliyyah, the days of ignorance, they would bury the daughters alive. And Allah says in a different verse that وَمَا يَنبَغِي لِلرَّحْمَنِ أَن يَتَّخِذَ وَلَدًا, that it is not befitting for Ar-Rahman, i.e. Allah, to have children. It's not befitting for Allah to have any children. Moves us to our last verse, وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ, that there is none equal to Him. Okay, there is nothing equal to Allah. Nobody is like Allah. Nobody can ever be like Allah. Nobody can be compared to Allah. This was a quick summary of Surah Ikhlaas, where Allah speaks about monotheism, Tawheed, how the different prophets of the past, how they preach to their people about Tawheed, how Allah is independent, okay, we are dependent on Allah, and how Allah doesn't give birth, and Allah wasn't given birth, and there is nothing like Allah. So lesson from Surah Ikhlas to establish Tawheed, to negate all types of shirk, polytheism, and the belief of the following groups. Those who don't believe in Allah, those who don't believe in Allah's perfect qualities, those who believe that Allah has children, this surah negates all of them. This surah is a true miracle. It consists of only 4 verses, but contains concepts that would only take pages to explain. Now, we're going to move on to Surah Lahab. Our main focus for today will be Surah Lahab. Inshallah, our main focus for today will be Surah Lahab. Surah Ikhlaas, okay, we briefly spoke about it. Our main focus today will be Surah Lahab, inshallah. Has anyone before that got any questions on Surah Ikhlaas or anything? Arabic word for child, you can use the word walad, awlad, children. Okay, Surah Lahab, inshallah. Surah Lahab means the flame. Now, the cause of revelation, why was Surah Lahab revealed? Okay, why was Surah Lahab revealed? So Islam was preached secretly for 3 years. So for 3 years, from the age of 40 till the age of 43, the Prophet Islam, he preached Islam secretly. Does anyone know where classes would take place, where they would teach the Quran? Where would they teach the Quran? Because it was preached secretly. They would do in a house. Does anyone know the name of the house? Mm. In the beginning, when Islam was preached secretly, mashallah. Darul Arqam, very good. It was called Darul Arqam. It was the house of a Sahabi named Arqam bin Arqam. He donated his house for educational purposes. MashaAllah, Darul Arqam, yes. So Darul Arqam was the house of a Sahabi named Arqam bin Arqam. He gave this house for as a donation for educational purposes. So they would come, gather, they would learn, they would preach in there. Until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the verses, فَاصْدَعْ بِمَا تُؤْمَرْ وَأَعْرِضْ عَنِ الْمُشْرِكِينَ and وَأَنذِرْ عَشِيرَتَكَ الْأَقْرَبِينَ. Allah told the Prophet that declare what you are commanded and turn away from the polytheists and warn your closest relatives. So Allah, in these revelations, Allah is telling the Prophet that start preaching openly. Start preaching openly now. Don't do it secretly anymore. And not only that, warn your family as well. So what the Prophet did was he climbed Mount Safa. Mount Safa is in Mecca as well, you know, where Hajar Islam, she ran from Mount Safa to Mount Marwa looking for water for her baby Ismail. So Mount Safa, the Prophet went onto Mount Safa as Arabs would climb mountains to make emergency calls. So she climbed Mount Safa. So here the Prophet climbed Mount Safa and called various tribes of Quraysh. He said, O Banu Hashim, O Banu Muttalib, O Banu Nawfal, etc. And said, if I were to tell you that there is an army behind the mountain about to attack you, would you believe me? So he's asking them all a question. If I were to tell you that there's an army behind this mountain, Mount Safa, there's an army behind this mountain waiting to attack you, would you believe me? And all of them, they said that, yes, we will believe you. In some narrations, it says, we'll attack you in the morning or evening. And everyone replied, yes, we have never experienced you lying. You are a sadiq, you are al-amin, you are the truthful, you are the honest. We will definitely believe you. Then the Prophet said, I am a clear warner regarding a terrible torment that is about to come. Okay, I am warning you of a terrible punishment that will come. Because he said that, his uncle Abu Lahab stood up and said, Ya Muhammad, Ali hada jama'tana. Oh Muhammad, is this why you gathered us? Tabbat laka sa'ir al-yawm. Destruction be to you for the rest of the day. His uncle Abu Lahab, he stood up. This is the name of the surah, Surah Lahab. His uncle Abu Lahab stood up and said, Ya Muhammad, O Muhammad, Ali hada jama'tana. Is this why you gathered us? Tabbat laka sa'ir al-yawm. Destruction be to you for the rest of your day. Then he picked up some stones to throw at the Prophet ﷺ. Na'udhu billah. Then the surah was revealed. Now, the Quran usually doesn't give specific names of people to shame or fame them. Okay? It's not the quality of the Quran to shame or fame people. However, there are exceptions. One Sahabi is mentioned in the Quran by name. Does anyone know this Sahabi? The name of this Sahabi who is mentioned in the Quran by name, not by pronoun, by name. Anyone know? So normally the Quran hasn't got the quality of faming or shaming anyone. One Sahabi is mentioned by name. MashaAllah. Yes, MashaAllah. Sister and brother Zayd, MashaAllah, Zayd bin Haritha, the first son of the Prophet ﷺ, Zayd bin Haritha is mentioned by name. Other Sahaba are mentioned but by pronoun, like Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu is mentioned by pronoun. Okay. Um, Also, one enemy of the Prophet ﷺ is mentioned by name, and this is Abu Lahab. The Prophet ﷺ had many enemies, right? The only one mentioned by name and has a full surah under him is Abu Lahab. Now, who is Abu Lahab? Well, inshallah, find out who Abu Lahab is, inshallah, and then we'll move on to the surah. Abu Lahab's real name is not Abu Lahab. His real name is Abdul Uzza. Abdul Uzza means the servant of Uzza. Uzza was an idol, was a god. His real name is Abdul Uzza. He was given this name Abu Lahab. Why? To nickname Abu Lahab, the father of flame. What does it mean? It was due to his reddish skin complexion. Okay, his face was really red. Okay, he had red cheeks. Hence, he was given this name that his cheeks were like fire. He was one of the uncles of the Prophet ﷺ. He was a half brother of Abdullah, the father of the Prophet ﷺ. Okay, so upon the birth of the Prophet ﷺ, Abu Lahab, he freed his slave due to happiness. Okay, he had a nephew, he freed his slave. Because of this small action, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lessens his punishment every Monday. So every Monday in Jahannam, Allah shows mercy upon Abu Lahab and gives him some water or gives him slightly less punishment than the other 6 days. Why? Because he, on this day when the Prophet was born, out of happiness, he freed a slave. So look how merciful Allah is. Look at the mercy of Allah, and He takes everything into consideration. Allahu Akbar. And moving on, Abu Lahab's continuous efforts to destroy Islam, as you can see on the screen, Abu Lahab tried his best, his utmost, very best, extreme efforts just to destroy Islam. The Prophet would go to fairs. In the Prophet's time, the Arabs would get together. They would have fairs of trade, fairs of poetry. The Prophet would think that there's a large congregation, there's a large gathering. It's a good opportunity for me to go and preach Islam. Whoever he would go to speak to, Abu Lahab would come behind him and tell that person, "Don't listen to that madman. Don't listen to that man who just spoke to you. He's crazy. He doesn't know what he's saying." So Abu Lahab tried so much to destroy Islam. Even when the Prophet invited his family to preach to them, Abu Lahab brainwashed everyone and made everyone leave. His children and wife, as you can see on the screen, from his children, we will speak about Utbah and Utayba, two of his sons. We will speak about Utbah and Utayba. The reason why, because pre-prophethood, before the Prophet became a prophet, Utbah was married to our Prophet's daughter, Ruqayya radiallahu anha. So Utbah was married to Ruqayya, and Utayba was married to Kulthum radiallahu anha. Now, after the Prophet became a prophet, Abu Lahab told his sons Utbah and Utayba, "I want you to divorce Kulthum and Ruqayya, or I will not see you, I will not look at you." So they divorced the Prophet's daughters. Utbah, he divorced Ruqayya. However, Utayba, what did he do? He divorced Kulthum and spat on the Prophet. So Utbah, he just divorced Ruqayya. Utayba divorced Kulthum, and on top of that, he spat on the Prophet. And the Prophet ﷺ, he made a dua against Utayba. He said, Allahumma sallit alayhi kalban min kilabika. Oh Allah, empower upon him a dog from your dogs. So Utayba, he spat on the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ made a dua against him that, oh Allah, empower upon him a dog from your dogs. We will learn about how he passed away in a few minutes, inshallah. And his wife as well. His wife was Arwa bint Harb. famously known as Jamil. She was the sister of Abu Sufyan. She would also give our Prophet a very hard time. Okay, overnight, she was a very wealthy woman. Overnight, she would go to the forest, she would get thorny branches and thorny twigs and place it on the Prophet's path. So he would find it difficult to uh, to go for Fajr prayer in the morning. She would do many other things. She would tailbear. Okay, she would try to cause some hatred and conflict between the Sahaba and the Prophet. And inshallah, in the next slide, inshallah, we will learn how Allah destroyed them. Okay, we will go into the summary of Surah Lahab now, inshallah, and through the verses, we'll find out how Allah killed and how Allah gave Abu Lahab a humiliating death, how he gave his son a humiliating death, how he gave his wife a humiliating death as well. Now, the first verse, if you look on the screen, it says, Tabbat yada abi lahabin wa tab. Now, amazing that Allah used these words, tabbat. Why? Because remember, I told you when the Prophet went on to Mount Safa and he called everyone and he told them that I am warning you of a severe tournament that will come. What did Abu Lahab say? Abu Lahab said, tabbat laka sa'ir al-yawm. He said, Ya Muhammad, Ali hadha jama'atan. Oh Muhammad, is this why you gathered us? Tabbat laka sa'ir al-yawm. Destruction be to you for the rest of your day. So Allah uses the same word. And Allah used the same word to curse Abu Lahab back. Allah is saying, Muhammad will not be in destruction, rather you will be in destruction. Tabbat yada abi lahabin wa tabba. May the hands of Abu Lahab be destroyed and may he be destroyed. Now think about it. Abu Lahab cursed the Prophet once, and in return, he will be cursed eternally, as the surah will be continually recited until the day of judgment. Many people recite the surah. Everyone recites this surah. Now, why has Allah mentioned yada? Tabbat means destruction. Yada means hands, both hands. Abi Lahab is Abu Lahab. Wa tabba, he be destroyed. May he be destroyed. So, why did Allah specify his hands? Does anyone know why do you think Allah specified his hands from all his other body parts? Sister, inshallah, tail bearer. I will cover that inshallah when we speak about verse number 4, inshallah. We will speak about tail bearing, how his wife used to tail bear, inshallah. So Yada, why does Allah specifically mention that destruction made the hands of Abu Lahab be destroyed? Why didn't he say that made the feet or made the head or made the legs? He twisted his hands. The reason why is because, yes, very good. He picked up stones with the same hands. He picked up stone. Very good, sister. With the same hands, he picked up stones to throw at the Prophet ﷺ. Remember, when the Prophet went onto the mountain and he said, "Is this why you gathered us?" And he picked up some stones to throw at the Prophet ﷺ. This is the reason why Allah specifies his hands. And then Allah says, وَتَبَّ. So after Allah destroys his hand, Allah will destroy his entire body. Now let's find out how Abu Lahab passed away, how Abu Lahab was killed. So how was Abu Lahab killed? Abu Lahab, he couldn't participate in the Battle of Badr. Okay, he couldn't participate. So what he did was, after the battle one day, he was next to the Kaaba, and a man said, the Muslim army had extremely strong men with white horses. Okay, they were very strong. And a Muslim who was there, he said, they are angels. And this angered Abu Lahab a lot. He started to beat this Muslim man up until a Muslim woman, she walked by and she hit Abu Lahab on his head. Now, this injury led to a disease that was contagious. Okay, so nobody could go near him. So this injury that was caused by the hit from that woman, it caused Abu Lahab to have a disease that was contagious, so no one could go near him. He was in isolation for about 7 days. So about 7 days after the Battle of Badr, he passed away. Some do say that he had smallpox. He died from smallpox, but when he died, no one went near him because there was a stench, there was a smell, and everyone was scared that in case they get this disease as well. So they left him for many days until people were complaining that take him out and stuff like that. So his sons, they got some men, okay, they hired some men who picked him up with sticks and they threw the corpse into a pit and they filled it up with stones. Okay, so Allah is saying that Allah gave him a humiliating death, and the surah was revealed whilst he was alive. So he was already given this news of a very evil or a very bad ending. He was already given this. Now, moving on to our next verse is ما أغنى عنه ماله وما كسب. Apologies about my voice. I got slight cold. So ما أغنى عنه ماله وما كسب, and what he earned, his wealth, anything would not benefit him. So his wealth and earning did not benefit him. Now, Abu Lahab was really wealthy and had many sons. Okay, so Ibn Abbas anhu said, when Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam warned his people about the punishment in the hereafter, Abu Lahab, what did he say? I have much wealth and children. If what if what my nephew Muhammad says is true, I will save myself from the punishment by giving my wealth and children away. So after the surah was revealed, Abu Lahab started to lose everything. Slowly, he started to lose everything. And we know that wealth cannot be beneficial to anyone unless it has been invested in the correct place. Obedient children who pray for the parents are beneficial as well. There's a hadith when the Prophet said that when a person passes away, all his deeds come to an end except for three. The Prophet said, when a person passes away, all our actions, all our deeds, they come to an end, come to a halt, except for three things. Number one, ceaseless charity, a sadaqah jariyah, something we do that will give us reward even after our death. For example, you build a water pump in a poor country. Now, every time someone drinks from the water pump or someone benefits from that water, you will get reward even though it's been 100 or 200 years since you passed away. Or you built a masjid in a poor country, that's a sadaqah jariyah as well. Number two is knowledge from which others benefit. Okay, you teach, inshallah, or you write a book in any form, shape, or form, you've left some knowledge behind from which others can benefit. And number three is a righteous child who makes dua for his or her parents. So I mentioned earlier that his son Utayba divorced our Prophet daughter Kulthum and spat on the Prophet. Remember when I said that he had two sons, Utayba and Utba? Uh, Utayba, what Utayba did was he he spat on the Prophet and the Prophet made a dua. Thank you, sister. Could you please repeat again about the hands? So the reason why hands are mentioned is because Abu Lahab used his hands to try to throw stones at the Prophet. Okay. So ما أغنى عنه ماله وما كسب, in here it speaks about his wealth and his children. Now we did mention that Utayba, he divorced the Prophet dua Kulthum and spat on the Prophet, and the Prophet made this dua against him that Allahumma sallit alayhi kalban min kilabik, oh Allah, empower upon him a dog from your dogs. Now when the Prophet made this dua against Abu Lahab, against Utayba, Abu Lahab, he started to tremble. He got scared as well. He knew that this curse will destroy his son. He knew that this curse would one day come true. So on one occasion, some Meccans, they were traveling to Syria, and amongst them were Abu Lahab and Utayba. Now, during this trip, they stopped in the jungle to take a break, to take a rest. And Abu Lahab went to his son and said, remember the curse of Muhammad, be careful. Okay? He warned his son. Why? Because there were a lot of lions. There were a lot of lions that used to roam around that jungle. In order to protect his son Utayba, obviously he tried his best to protect his son Utayba. He told the people to get the luggages and they piled it up. They piled all the luggages up and they put Utayba at the top. They put Utayba at the top of all the luggages or all the baggage, whatever baggage they had, and the rest of the people, they slept around him so no harm could come to Utayba, because Abu Lahab knew that his nephew's curse would come true. And when everyone went to sleep at night, a lion crept into the camp. It sniffed everyone, but it didn't touch no one. Then it jumped onto Utayba and uprooted his head, took Utayba's head off. So in the morning, the people, they woke up and they saw that no one else was hurt, not even to the slightest of injuries. No one was even scratched. but they saw Utayba, his body has been ripped up. Why? Because he spat at the Prophet and the Prophet made dua against him. Allah SWT has shown the outcome of what happens to those who have enmity with the Prophet and his family. How did Allah destroy Abu Lahab? And look how Allah destroyed his son Utayba. Now, moving on to the third verse, سَيَصْلَى نَارًا ذَاتَ لَهَبٍ. He will soon enter the fire of blazing flame. Now, Abu Lahab got the bad news of entering the blazing fire whilst he was on this earth. Normally, we should not write someone off, no matter how bad someone is. Okay, there might be a non-Muslim, there might be a disbeliever who is very racist towards Islam. Okay, who hates Islam, but we can't curse them. Why? We don't know. Okay, before they pass away, it could be that they might accept Islam and they might die as a Muslim. We don't know, right? Guidance lies in the hands of Allah. Forgiveness lies in the hands of Allah. So we don't know until someone dies upon disbelief. Then we can say stuff about them, maybe. But Abu Lahab was already given the bad news of entering the blazing fire whilst he was alive. Because Allah SWT knew that Abu Lahab wouldn't. He knew that he wouldn't accept Islam. He was a very rich individual. In the first two verses, تبت يدا أبي لهب وتب ما أغنى عنه ماله وما كسب. In the first two verses, we are told of Abu Lahab's worldly failure and punishment. And in verse number 3, we are told of his punishment in the hereafter. سيصلى نارا ذات لهب. We are told that he will be punished, he will be thrown into the blazing fire. And moving on to the next verse, sister that asked about what is tail bearing. Inshallah, in this verse I will explain. وَامْرَأَتُهُ حَمَّالَةَ الْحَطَبِ. And his wife, the carrier of firewood. Now, حَمَّالَةَ الْحَطَبِ, what does that mean? Now, let's understand what حَمَّالَةَ الْحَطَبِ means. After that, inshallah, I will take some questions. So, the commentators of the Quran, they say it could mean many different things. Number one, it could refer to tail bearing, tail carrying. So what is tail carrying? Tail carrying is what Jamil would do. So she would carry tales, she would go and gossip, she would go to one person and gossip about another person and take that to another person. And she would, with the intention to cause conflict, okay, between different people. So she would do that between the Sahaba and the Prophet ﷺ. Okay, so she would go and say that this person said this and that. When that person says something back, she would go to the other person and said, this person I was speaking to said this about you. And she would just try to cause conflict and enmity and hatred between people for no reason. Another meaning of Hammalat al-Hatab could mean that she would carry, she would carry thorny branches and twigs and choose to place it on the Prophet's path so he would find difficult to walk. Another one would mean she would kindle the fire of Jahannam for her husband by throwing firewood into it in order to increase his pain. So she would be throwing firewood into the fire of her husband. Why? Because just as she assisted him in this world by increasing the pain of the Prophet ﷺ, he helped him increase the pain of the Prophet ﷺ. Likewise, in Jahannam, she will be made to throw the firewood into the fire of her husband. So the fire in his Jahannam would grow and the pain would increase for him. Now, regarding tail bearing, inshallah, I would say a few things regarding tail bearing. Is that the Prophet said, لا يدخل الجنة قتات, that a tail bearer will not enter paradise. A person who tail bears will not enter paradise. Someone who does tail bearing or tail carrying will not enter paradise. Once the Prophet was with the Sahaba and upon reaching two graves, he stopped at them and he said, indeed, these two people are being punished. They are not being punished because of something big, i.e., something hard to avoid. They're not being punished because they couldn't avoid something which is very difficult. Indeed, this is a big thing. It's a major sin what they did. Regarding one of them, he did not save himself from urine droplets. That means that when a person, a male, when you go to the toilet and you urinate and you don't be careful of your droplets, and later on you just rush and you come out and the drops they go over your clothes, your trousers, and you're praying salah with them because of not taking being cautious of your urine droplets, your wudu will break, your salah and everything will become invalid. And the second person is a person who would eavesdrop. Okay, he would listen to other people's conversation, and he would go and tailbear. He would go and tell someone else just with the intention to create conflict. Now, our tongue is a very small meat of our body, but its actions can lead to severe consequences. In another hadith, all our organs they plead to the tongue every morning and they say, "Fear Allah." They say to the tongue, all our organs, all our body parts, they say to the tongue, "Fear Allah regarding us, for we are only a part of you. If you are straight, we will be straight. If you are crooked, we will be crooked as well." So the tongue is something very small, yes, but it can cause and it can damage, it can do a lot. Okay, so be very careful of how you use this tongue. So tail bearing, we went over that. Is that okay? Or do you have any more questions? So tail bearing is causing conflict. Like imagine I go to man A, and I say to man A that this and that about man B. So because of that, man A said something bad about man B, but he only said something bad about man B because I kind of made him say that because I spoke bad about man B. Yes, backbiting. And then because he said something bad about man B, I go to man B and I say, you know what? I was talking to man A and he said this about you. And just like that, you cause conflict and hatred between two people for no reason, two innocent people. Now, the last verse is في جيدها حبل من مسد. Around her neck will be a rope of palm fiber. Around her neck will be a rope of palm fiber. Now, what does that mean? Scholars say that حبل من مسد, twisted rope of palm fiber, can have two meanings. Meaning number one was how Jamil died. Now, Jamil, she was a very wealthy woman. Yes, she was known, she was wealthy, but she had a very bad and evil trait. She didn't want good for anyone. So one day, after collecting firewood, so she would go every night to collect firewood so she can put it on the person's path so he would find it difficult to walk to Fajr. One day, after collecting firewood, she assembled them into a bundle, yes, and then she stacked them on her head. Obviously, it would be very difficult for her to just leave on her head. So what she did was she got a rope and she fastened this rope around her neck. So in order to keep that bundle of firewood in place, they won't move. So it was fastened around her neck. Now she got tired by walking. She sat down. She tripped over. She tripped over. Now what happened was the rope she fastened around her neck that strangled her to death. Okay, so the way she lived, that's the way she died. You understand? The way she lived, that she was evil, she would carry firewood to go and cause harm to someone else, let alone did she know that these firewoods that she had the intention to go and cause harm to someone else, these are the same firewood that killed her. Do you understand? Another meaning could be that she would eavesdrop and tailbear, so she would spread lies about the Prophet and the Sahaba. And one more point I would like to mention about Jamil is that when the surah was revealed, she got really angry and she charged to the Kaaba to look for the Prophet ﷺ. She was looking for the Prophet ﷺ and she found Abu Bakr there. And by the way, Abu Bakr was sitting with our Prophet ﷺ. So Abu Bakr and the Prophet ﷺ was sitting next to the Kaaba. They were both there. But Jamil, she couldn't see the Prophet. She could only see Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr also told the Prophet ﷺ that she's coming, I fear that she will see you. The Prophet ﷺ recited a verse. He said, وَإِذَا قَرَأْتَ الْقُرْآنَ جَعَلْنَا بَيْنَكَ وَبَيْنَ الَّذِينَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْآخِرَةِ حِجَابًا مَسْتُورًا. And when you recite the Quran, we place between you and those who do not believe in the hereafter a hidden barrier. So Allah protected the Prophet. Allah put a veil in front of her eyes that she couldn't see the Prophet. They mentioned in the Quran that وَإِذَا قَرَأْتَ الْقُرْآنَ, when you recite the Quran, جَعَلْنَا بَيْنَكَ وَبَيْنَ الَّذِينَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْآخِرَةِ, we place between you and those who do not believe in the hereafter حِجَابًا مَسْتُورًا, a hidden barrier. Jamil, she couldn't see the Prophet, so she came and she complained to she complained to Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. Now, that brings us to the end of the tafsir explanation and summary of Surah Lahab. Inshallah, we'll take questions in a bit. I would just like to make the small dua that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from the evil of the tongue. Because of the tongue, many people will be destroyed. With the tongue, people backbite. Okay, people accuse. Accusation is is a sin as well. People give false witness as well. People lie. People swear. Okay, with that tongue, there's many sins that can be done. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make our tongue a means of good. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make our tongue a means of good for us, a guidance of others. So inshallah, with this tongue, we can say good words, we can guide people to Islam. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep our tongues moist in reciting the Quran and in the dhikr of Allah. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. Now, some lessons, inshallah, we can take before we take questions from everyone. What are some lessons we can take from Surah Lahab? Those that are asking questions, inshallah, I will answer your questions in a minute, inshallah. So, lessons from Surah Lahab, the first lesson is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not look at your lineage. Rather, you are judged by your own actions. We are not done yet, so if anyone is leaving, we just have a few more minutes left, inshallah. Do listen to the lessons we can take from the surah. So Allah doesn't look at your lineage, rather you are judged by your own actions. The Prophet said, وَمَنْ بَطَّأَ بِهِ عَمَلُ لَمْ يُسْرِعْ بِهِ نَسَبُ. That whoever's deeds keep them behind, whoever's actions keep them back, their lineage will not move them forward. Your lineage cannot take you forward. If your deeds have kept you behind, your lineage will not take you forward. And Allah SWT doesn't look at your descendants or ascendants. He doesn't look at who your father is or who your son is. He will look at your heart. He will look at your deeds. We can't blame our father. We can't blame our son or anything. Because look at Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. His father was an idol worshipper, an idol seller, right? But look who he became, one of the best prophets. Look at Nuh alayhi salam. Look who his father, look who his son was. His son didn't accept the message and he drowned and he died. Number two is enemies of Islam will surely be punished by Allah. And it's true that many examples of enemies who were enemies of Islam, they were given humiliating death. Some even died in the toilet. Those who use their wealth to harm Islam and Muslims will see the end in destruction and humiliation. And a married couple should be partners in good rather than sin. So Abu Lahab and his wife Jamil, they were partners in crime. Okay? The married couple should be the opposite. And the last one, carrying tales to cause conflict is a major sin. Okay, like we mentioned, the person said, "La yadkhulul jannata fattat," a talebearer, someone who tale bears, someone who gossips too much will not enter paradise. Okay, so speak less. Okay, only speak when it will benefit others, or don't speak. If you heard someone done this or someone done that, it's not confirmed. Don't go and spread this lie or spread this rumor or accuse someone for doing something. No, the tongue, if we can protect this tongue, inshallah, can do a lot of good for us. Or if we let this tongue slip, it can be the reason of our failure in this world and the hereafter. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this, whatever has been taught in this lesson, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for us to act upon it. I hope it increased your knowledge on both surahs, inshallah. I will take your question now. So the first question is, which surah and verse are you referring to, Sister Syra? Are you referring to وَإِذَا قَرَأْتَ الْقُرْآنَ جَعَلْنَا? Is it this verse that you're referring to? If it is, just let me know, then I'll tell you the verse. Palm fiber is is a material. It's like fiber. Abu Lahab, he was killed. He died from a contagious disease, which caused him to be in isolation, and then he he died in isolation for about 7 days. He was alone, and a very bad stench came out, and no one wanted to go and remove his body until his sons had to hire some men picked him up with some sticks. They threw him in a pit and they threw some stones over it. وإذا قرأت القرآن is in Surah Isra, Surah Bani Israel, which is Surah number 17, verse number 45. So Surah Isra, Surah Bani Israel, in verse number 45. Can you share the slides in the group? Yes, inshallah, the slides and everything will be shared on the group. Any other questions? No. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah. I will see you in the next lesson. We will have 1 week break next week, and then inshallah we will carry on from the following week, inshallah. So throughout this 1 week, throughout the next 2 weeks, inshallah, do uh, do look over these 5 surahs we went over: Surah Fatiha, Surah Nas, Surah Falaq, Surah Ikhlaas, and Surah Lahab, and try to take lessons from the surahs. And when you're reciting in Salah, try to connect with the surah. Now you understand the surah. So don't just read the Arabic. Try to remember what has been taught in this lesson, what Allah is saying to you. Okay, and inshallah, your connection with Allah and your concentration in Salah will increase by many folds. Also, keep me in your dua. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.